It's been a while. I know
Yeah.
Kathryn from grad school, so I'm so glad to see you again. Where are you at right now?
I'm in Rockville, Maryland right now, so a
Maryland?
little bit under the England.
So how do you service like two states? I know you said you can provide service in Maine and New Hampshire. How do you do that?
Yeah, so I have licenses in Maine, New Hampshire, and Maryland. So as long as the client is in one of those states and I'm in one of the states that I'm licensed in, which is Maryland currently, I can see them virtually.
Great, great. And how's that going so far?
It's going pretty good. Right now, trying to reach out to pediatrics, more holistic care members for adult services as well. So trying to expand to all ages.
Yeah, so Kathryn has like really, cool story. Would you be kind to share some of your therapies in terms of, specializing on, let's just you have a lot. You got pediatric feeding, you got primitive reflex, and you also have some chronic illness management. So, which one you want to get started first? Kind of really like to hear your story too. So feel free to jump in on whatever you feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they all kind of relate to each other. I started feeding therapy services actually in Maine a couple years ago, and seeing all the different challenges that those clients face, it got me really interested in primitive reflexes, as a lot of the children with feeding have a lot of low tone, but they also have active reflexes, which are affecting their motor abilities to eat as well as sensory. So I went in for that certification, and during that, I discovered kind of the relation between vision and primitive reflexes. So you can actually integrate a lot of reflexes through vision, which I'm sure you know because I know you do that a lot yourself. And that got me really interested in vision, and especially through my own personal journey, I had some challenges with vision through Lyme disease. So I was even more kind of interested to hear like how you can rehabilitate your eyes just like any other muscle and make those stronger. And then that led me to more of the chronic illness support and seeing that great need, and that there's not really any resources out there at this time, especially virtually for a lot of the patients that aren't strong enough to leave their house or seek services or drive even. And all of those just connect really well to create that holistic care that I'm after.
That's good. So how long you been an OT?
Coming up on 5 years, which will
And
be exciting. Yeah, almost.
That's an interesting question because if you guys don't know, me and Kathryn went to grad school together, so we have the same experience in terms of timeline of graduation and all that stuff. Uh, so yeah, tell us about just going through like helping people with chronic illnesses, like specifically Lyme disease, because that's like you said, it's about really managing and how to be proactive with the care. So how do you just kind of like more for the sound of it, a lot of it's like a personal approach that you do, and you really you're maintaining, and it's a lot of therapeutic use of self, if that makes sense, based on what you've
Yeah.
been doing. So tell us about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think especially because I have five family members, including myself, and three out of the five of us have chronic Lyme disease, and another one underwent treatment for it. So I've been able to see my own journey, but then also family members that are really close to me and how individualized each kind of path is, even though it's the same diagnosis and same illness. So I think a lot of care in kind of our healthcare world right now is kind of putting everyone in a box, and that's kind of the you get the A, B, and C treatment, and then you're kind of pushed to the next healthcare clinician. So I strive to really figure out what challenges people are facing, regardless of their diagnosis, and figuring out whether those are mental, physical, or a combination of both. The more and more research I'm doing, I'm also currently undergoing a certification for to become a mindfulness informed clinician. And I hope to really bring that to the chronic illness community because I think the power of our brain and how that relates to our body is so important, and it's lost a lot of times with chronic illness or trauma or stress. It forms a disconnect and almost turns off parts of our nervous system. So it leads to more symptoms and challenges.
No, you really dig deep to this in terms of the nervous system, and like, we don't want to put band-aids on the nervous system that is on fire. So thanks for sharing that. Any just simple tips that you could just provide for for a specific person that recovering from Lyme disease? Because personally, I have a friend of mine. I actually visited him at his home, and he lost like motor function in terms of I think it was like neck down. He was almost paralyzed really, and a lot of muscle weaknesses and really lost his mobility skills. So, any health tips for people recovering from Lyme disease at all?
Yeah, it's honestly such an individualized journey, but it can be extremely debilitating. I know at like the height of my own sickness, I couldn't walk up and down the stairs, and I went from like a three-sport athlete to being almost couch bound. So I definitely like firsthand, and then I was able to work back up, thankfully, play college soccer and kind of regain the strength and confidence in my movements. But really, it's starting small and starting within your limitations and not pushing yourself too hard too fast. So it's really kind of finding that just right challenge, that we're so good at finding in OT, but finding that on a personal level and setting goals that are obtainable. So even if it's just, I know with a lot of individuals sometimes I've worked with is just if they're unable to really get off the couch, it's let's make it from the couch to the fridge 3 times in the day and then kind of grading that up. So then we're going to try and walk up the stairs in a couple weeks and then we're going to try and walk quarter mile, half mile. It's just like slowly graded aerobic exercise is really helpful. I truly think like movement's medicine, especially in the realm of Lyme disease. It can be so debilitating if you're more of a sedentary
Yeah,
recovery.
I see. No, that's really, thanks for sharing that. Any like,
Mhm.
I know sometimes your diet can be impacted to Lyme disease too.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to recommend food today because we're such a, how do we even say this? It's just, there's a lot of food or not food. Basically, we need everybody's diet needs to be personalized, right? So,
Mhm.
this diet might not work for this person or vice versa. So, any just like, things that you include to your routine. For me, I drink a lot of water and then I've been adding a lot of blueberries like daily to my just eating, I think it's just such an antioxidant food. So I think just
Yeah.
anything that you add to your routine in terms of just like you said, just the right challenge for you in general.
Yeah, I definitely try to drink a bunch of water. I think that's
Yeah.
like that's the most important is just being hydrated.
Yeah.
Dehydration leads to so many other things like fatigue and headaches, but lots of fruits and vegetables. Try to limit carbs, try to limit sugar.
Yeah.
I think with so many, like even neurodiversity or chronic illness, that kind of heavy carbon sugar provides that quick energy, but can really lead to like high moods, low moods, and all this other thing. So just kind of small meals, frequent meals throughout the day as well.
That's awesome. No, thanks for sharing that. It's really important to really have that, holistic approach on what you do. So yeah, what else? Is there anything else you want to add in terms of just in general of, people who are going through recovering from Lyme disease or chronic illness management. We talk a little bit about nervous system and
Yeah, I think
yeah, go ahead.
kind of the biggest thing is focusing on your independent journey and your independent goals. I like to use the phrase like little victories when I work with anyone with like chronic illness or something that is very long term. It's trying to find that light in the small moments and those small goals. It's something my parents actually did with me when I was in the height of my illness. So I try to bring that into my practice as well. So if that's, you remember to take your medicine on time or you were able to go to the grocery store for the first time in a while. Like that's kind of like that little victory. Like it might not be that huge goal, but it's those little building blocks that lead up to the kind of end goal.
That's really solid. Um, so you're a really busy lady. So how do you fit on time of like CEUs and do you take most of them online? And tell us about the mindfulness that you mentioned. Is that more like a CBT kind of techniques that kind of like familiarize to? What is that about?
Yeah, I do a lot of my CEUs through online, so
Yeah,
recorded webinars, and then they're usually followed up by a consultation with the expert in the field,
yeah.
just to prove expertise and to talk about any case studies that we have that, so I can implement it in practice easier. And then the mindfulness one I'm currently taking, it's focused a lot on like CBT and then polyvagal theory, so how to breathe properly because most Americans actually don't breathe properly at this time. So a lot of people breathe right into their shoulders and their collarbone, and it actually can cause, higher anxiety, headaches, not adequate oxygen intake. So really trying to focus on that diaphragmatic breathing.
Yeah.
And then it goes into, it's actually divided into subparts. So there's specific techniques for trauma, addiction, chronic illness, pain. So there's all these different kind of breathing patterns that you can do per the main kind of concern that you're having.
Okay. No, I didn't even know what polyvagal theory about. Would you kind to be shared that a little bit? Because I've heard of it, and you studying it. What you learned so far?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So it kind of divides our body almost, if you take your torso and slice it in half, so you have your top and your bottom. So you have your dorsal vagal and your ventral vagal, and it kind of pairs with the fight or flight or kind of the dormant like freeze, and you can actually rest your nervous system in one of these more than the other. So with like chronic pain or trauma, you can almost enter into a like deactivated state, which would be more of your dorsal vagus, and that makes you like not reactive, kind of tune off from your body signals, and can kind of cause some of those long-term effects. And then ventral vagal is where you're feeling really safe. You can co-regulate. You're ready for social engagement. And then you also have your sympathetic, which is your activation and action. So you're really high alert, but this can be kind of pros and cons, right? So you could be really energetic, playful, like ready to learn, or you could be high alert, kind of hyper vigilant, and go into more of those symptoms that come from a consistent state of hypervigilance. So like anxiety, headaches, nausea, GI distress, and it's all just kind of related and rooted in your experiences.
Wow, that is that's a book of knowledge right there. Wow, that is great. Thank you for sharing that. You touched base about I'm really learning about a lot about HPA axis and with like you said the fight or flight response and we
Yeah,
work
it's crazy.
we work on that in our clinic in terms of the fear paralysis, startle response reflex, and
That's awesome.
yeah, and you know first things first is you're gonna work on the nervous system really is because it's our foundational and most of the stuff that we do is very simple so and that's what I like about it like you can actually do it I do it to
Mhm.
myself yeah I have to do it to myself first so I'm locked in when I'm with my client and really be centered of myself and to be in tune at the present moment because right now we can think of ahead 100 things that we need to do but just to be present at the moment is such an important skills as a therapist so thank you for sharing that and you know able to co-regulate is such an important piece as a therapist
Yeah.
itself because we carry a lot of stuff and just to be aware of that is such an important piece for us. So what else? Is there anything else that you like to add in terms of that? I guess this is deep because the polyvagal theory, there's a lot of therapists that also adding that in their learning, and I'm glad you shared that. Is there anything else you
Yeah,
like?
I think definitely kind of like a up and coming research, especially in the field of OT as we are such like a holistic healthcare. But I do think, in the next like 5 years, we're going to see kind of that change in our profession for not as much looking at that kind of reactive care, but that preventative care and really looking at the origin of the disarray that's happening in the body, not just, if they have like a fine motor impairment, looking at the fine motor, it's kind of backtracking in that hierarchy of development.
Yeah, yeah, definitely such an important piece that I think in our profession is missing is just looking at the developmental foundational blocks of our human
Mhm.
self. And like we gotta be holistic in many ways. And really, thank you for reminding me and just in general with all what you shared so far. Do you have any recommendation for like therapists working with children in terms of primitive reflex and like how why it's so crucial to it? Because there's a lot of talks about primitive reflex the past 2 3 years since COVID, really, and I feel like post COVID we're still kind of like, what is this even about? And we've been seeing more a lot of reels about primitive reflex, a lot of more talks about it. Um, why do you think it's like primitive reflex is such an important piece of of your what you do right now?
Yeah, I'm not quite certain on why that we have seen the increase, but I do think like I would say 85% of the pediatric population I currently work with is presenting with active reflexes. So I was gonna say like normally in an evaluation, it's just kind of like the root of um, some of the symptoms. So for example, one of the children I'm working with right now is a kindergartner, wouldn't make eye contact, neurotypical, but wouldn't make eye contact, wouldn't engage with new places, new people, super reactive to unexpected stimuli, regardless of what it was. So sight, sounds, things like that. Very picky eater, very resistant of movement, just very much kind of like internal presenting. And during their evaluation, they presented with a very active Moro. So their
Oh,
parents were amazing with kind of following through with exercises. And like 3 months later, the parents were like, they're exploring on the playground, they're introducing themselves to peers, and it's been like night and day for like actually meeting this child. Like they are so much more confident and
yeah,
able to move about. So I've seen some cases where they could have gone down a different route in therapy on working on like, social emotional development and all these different sensory strategies. But if the Mora wasn't integrated, none of those strategies would have made that impact,
I
which is just like crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it is crazy because if that foundational block is missing or not properly integrated, we're just putting band-aids in many ways. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with like those higher. I think those like intervention is like a top-down approach. There's nothing wrong with them, but if the foundation at the bottom is not fully integrated, it's just harder for kids because they know the zones already. They know what color they're in, but there's still like that missing piece of roadblock for them. Like you know what I mean? So it's like that's really I noticed too with the population I work with, and yeah, it's been really rewarding, and the result has been really profound, and have been really parents been really pleased on what they've been seeing as well. So I'm glad that, in your case study or case sample, it's really, thanks for sharing that. It's really, important to share
Yeah,
the impact of primitive reflex. And I think as an OT, we need to be continuing learning um, outside school base, outside, outpatient clinic, whatever that is. I think there's always room to grow for us. And I think primitive reflex is such a great tool for other people to. Oops, sorry about that. I got some call. But yeah, I got primitive reflex that would benefit for those. So, but yeah, yeah.
yeah. I
Go ahead.
Have you worked with any adults with active primitive reflexes?
I work on myself.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, Yeah, definitely. Definitely with with moral fear paralysis, spinal
Yeah.
dilemma. We're fixing like scoliosis. In many ways, just working the spinal dilemma reflex because you have the lateral flexion of the hip and shoulder. So you see that automatic response gonna put your spine to a, scoliosis pattern.
Mhm.
So it's really crucial to understand these pieces, and most of our stuff is advanced manual therapy, so we're really working on the spinal muscles to work on it, and we sometimes we couldn't even get to the spinal column because, let's say, fear paralysis is way overactivated. We just gotta calm down the nervous system first. So, and
Yeah,
that's been really the results have been really, it's been fun, it's been really fun working with, and then the parents is also, you know supportive of, you know home exercise program and all that stuff. So it's been it's been really fun at work. So
yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, it's been really a good learning curve to, with primitive reflex and continue learning to that. um so yeah, it's been a blessing.
That's awesome.
What else? Tell me anything else that exciting going on in terms of what you're doing. I know you have a business. What's the name of your business?
Wholesome Roots Occupational Therapy. So,
Yeah, and you currently servicing three state. Can you repeat again?
yep, Maine, Maryland, and New Hampshire,
Oh,
primarily virtual right now.
virtual right now. Okay,
Yeah,
telehealth.
just to increase the
Um,
accessibility.
so what do you think about the Uplift Care? That what I'm building, just a clinical directory. What do you think about it?
I think it's awesome. I think it's so hard for, I know, like, even when I personally go to find like a doctor near me, it's just kind of, like endless scrolling online
Yeah,
and trying to find people. So having everything kind of located in one spot and then like therapist supporting therapist, I'm always for. So I think
yeah.
it'll be a really great tool to try to find like that one-stop shop.
Yeah, that's really like the key. Just having that simple clinical directory to find specialists near you, and as a therapist, also network with other therapists in your area or things that. Because my goal is to be able to host some webinars there, have a live calendar. So let's say you want to host about, let's say polyvagal education or whatever those things that you're passionate about. You can just post it there, and therapists can join you to talk about those,
Awesome.
really learn more, because we that's really our key, and moving forward. And I think COVID really restrict a lot of the learning piece in this, because there's a lot of fear, right? I mean, fear is the number one enemy of learning. So yeah, so I'm glad that you joined. I didn't even give you the instruction to register, like how easy it is to register. Is I was,
It, yeah, I was gonna say it probably took me like 5 minutes. It was super easy, just a couple clicks.
okay.
Yeah, no, that was great.
Okay, good. So I'm glad that worked out. What
Mhm.
what else do you have for the rest of the day? You're pretty busy for your clients, schedule wise?
Yeah, I have an afternoon full, but that's typical because after, after school time. So
So do you go like school to school, or do you go home to home? What's kind of, or clinic to clinic? How's like your routine in terms of work?
yeah, currently right now, I'm working for an outpatient clinic, and then I also contract with a private school, and then I do home visits and teletherapy. So I kind of meet the kids where they are at.
Yeah, oh my goodness, talking about crushing it, guys. So I think, we're just gonna put ourselves out there, and, if you need a clinical directory for yourself, and, happy to have you at Uplift Care. So really, it's the, we just gonna create a marketplace for ourselves, because nobody's gonna do it for ourselves. So I think that's really like my thinking of this, because it's so hard getting started and just network with other therapists and just putting yourself out there, because everything is saturated with Google and everything. So yeah, thank you for joining us, Kathryn. I'm so glad to have you. Where do our clients can find you in terms of like social media and all that stuff?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page which is Wholesome Roots Occupational Therapy, and an Instagram that goes along with it just for easy access, which is Wholesome Roots OT.
Yeah.
And then we have a website as well, which has a quick, easy like 3 to 5 minute general intake form for the different states, and then If I'm currently not servicing that state, I do have another form for that. So if there's enough interest in another state, I am willing to kind of get licensed in that state in order to help because I know that chronic illness doesn't limit itself to New England. So
Yeah.
that's wholesomerootsot.canva.site, I think, but um, I'll have to figure that out.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Is there anything else would you like to discuss before we end this show?
I don't think so. Thank you so much for
No,
having
no,
me.
yeah, I don't want to hold you up. You have a busy day. So, have your lunch, get a little bit of breathing, breathing techniques in, drinks a lot of whatever water, get our
Hmm.
self ready for a busy day.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're able to join, and I'm glad that we have you on board Uplift Care, and you know really is like I'm glad that we're able to give you this platform to really share what you do because I didn't even know about polyvagal theory and all that stuff and the importance of primitive reflex. I'm glad we share that passion together. So I think many OTs or even just therapists itself would benefit for
Yeah.
those simple things. So thank you, Kathryn.
Thank you, Earl.
Take care. Bye. And see you later.